Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Avrum Rosensweig, and I am here with my colleague and my friend, Rabbi Shlomo Gemara. How are you, Rabbi?
Baruch Hashem, how was your week?
Good question. My week was very growth-oriented. A lot of really great stuff happened, and I did a few actually very interesting interviews, one of which I may have spoken about last week, a fellow by the name of Mustafa Erzargani.
I saw part of it. Very interesting.
Yeah, you saw it? Yeah, he's a Moroccan Muslim, and he is so supportive and embraces the Jewish people and Israel. It's a fine interview with that man who's very, very special. And it's such a relief when you meet people with his background who see the beauty of the Jewish people and what we are all about and what we're trying to accomplish in this world. Very
How
impressive.
did you reach him? How did you hear about him?
You know, the more podcasts that one does, the more I think your network develops. So I actually saw him online. He really is rising. His star is rising right now as we speak. So it's not that difficult to get in touch with him. If I want to be in touch with Douglas Murray, that's really hard. But it wasn't that hard to get in touch with Mustafa. And I also interviewed Frida Wiesel, who we talked about this last week, who comes from the Satmar community, and she left it and found a life of modernity. Also, really impressive human being. I think the most impressive thing about Frida is that she didn't blow up the bridge when she left. In fact, what she does to make a living is to go back there and to do short videos on the Hasidic community. Streimels and kapatas, well, how there are so many different ones, and how the women make challah, and how the kids come out during recess and they play through their own sense of creativity. And I found that very, very, encouraging, because there's a lot of people who leave their community and they never really have much to do with them. So that was great. How was your week? You're on vacation.
Yeah, in vacation, last week we came back from New York. This week is a little bit more opportunity to learn, to read a little bit, to prepare for my work. I'm writing a curriculum, and I worked a little bit on the curriculum. So I'm busy, but not as usual. I'm not traveling. We enjoy... we start to get old, maybe. So you enjoy being in your home and to have, just yourself, your wife, your home.
Are you one who can sit on a beach?
And never, not even as a child. And I grew up in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
I actually hate the sand of the beach.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but no, it does not attract me at all.
Yeah, someone mentioned to me too, what are you doing on your holiday? I said, my holiday is working. It's creating more podcasts. That's what I enjoy, and that's what I love. I can just be. Are you able to do that? Sit on a couch and just think for a couple of hours? Can you do that?
No, hours for sure not. 10 minutes I can, and I find it actually very important for every person to sit for 10 minutes, to think, to roll in his mind how the day is going to look like. It's good.
Tell me something. This is the last day of 2025. Does this New Year's mean anything to you?
Mamash lo. The only thing that it means is, when I book a ticket, for example, or buy something, you have to roll to give them your age.
Yes.
So it's just getting like more, like, you cross the 80s, the 70s, the 60s. Okay.
I feel the
That's a
same.
big difference.
I feel the same way. I was born in 1960, and
So you are a young man.
well, I'm 65, thank God. But yeah, very often when I'm, faced with a similar challenge, I think, oh my gosh, I'm getting old, eh? I'm getting old. Wow. But listen, Rabbi, I want to tell you something. I have a new friend in Israel. Her name is Marcy or Mira. She's a lovely, lovely human being who's originally from Toronto, and she's world renowned for her work in various different areas. I won't say too much, but she writes as well. And she wrote a piece for the New Year's, which I'd like to read to you and to our viewers, which I thought was very, very lovely. And it goes like this. It's the last morning of 2025, a day of reflection. What have we seen? What have we learned? Where have we grown? I have learned that when it feels like hope is gone, a salvation can be around the corner. All of our living hostages came home. I have learned that when hatred goes unchecked, humanity allows it to spiral. Lord of the Flies unleashed across the world. I have learned that when tested, people rise or collapse under pressure. I have witnessed the Herculean strength and inspiring courage from wounded soldiers and widows, rehabilitating, marrying, building new chapters with dignity and with grace. I have also seen people cave under the pressure of widespread opinion, selling their souls and losing morality to gain popularity. No doubt it is a time to reflect: who did I become? What did I do? Where will I go in 2026? May we find inner strength to make the right choices, clarity to take the right steps. May the world restore itself to sanity and peace. Happy 2025. What did you think of that piece?
Well, she sounds frustrated, and it sounds like 2025 was not the best year of her life, or at least she think it wasn't the best year for the world, and I tend to agree with her. I think that we realized many things that in normal years we didn't want to realize, but the intensity of it just opened our eyes to see that the world around us is in troubles in many ways.
Rabbi, let me ask you a question. It's definitely a very challenging year. But when we take a look at the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, I believe it was Rabbi Kiva, and tell me if I'm correct, who, after the destruction, he was somewhat happy. He was somewhat celebrating. And they asked him why. He says, because this is the beginning of a new era. This is the beginning of something new for the Jewish people. What is the Jewish way in terms of troubles, in terms of a difficult year?
It's a mixed reaction. Remember that Rabbi Akiva went with another 5 great scholars, and they were crying when they saw the destruction, which is a natural reaction to see the central place of the Jewish life in shambles, in a state of utter destruction. But at the same time, you also need a significant amount of hope. And I do believe that the Jewish people overcome many of their challenges, and not because they were not hard enough. It's because that even in the most difficult situation, they always repeated what we say around the Seder, "V'akadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu miyadam." God is there to save us from the destruction, the ultimate destruction of the Jewish people. It will never happen. So this was a difficult year, yes, but if you are equipped with this resilience and this look for the future and hope, we cannot allow ourselves to be desperate and to be frustrated. We just have to continue to build. And this is the greatest strength of the Jewish people. We always build. We have one of the tractate in the Talmud is Yevamot. What is Yevamot? Yevamot is a story about a widow that lost her husband. They did not have children. And it looks like it was cut. It was completely futureless, hopeless. And we have this amazing concept that one of the family is marrying the widow, and this is continuation of the deceased brother. Now, beyond the idea of continuity, what does that mean? It means that even death does not cut off things. The Jewish people always look beyond the point of despair, beyond the here and the now. And I do believe that this is maybe what holds us together through the generations, because no generation, at least not everywhere on the globe, it was easy to the Jewish community. But the common denominator of all times of history, all Jewish communities, was exactly this. No matter what will happen, we have to continue to build. And that's what they did.
Rabbi, we're going to talk about the parashah soon, Parashat Vayechi, in our series called Torah in Real Time. And there's a reference to what you're saying right now, is that it looks like it's the end for Yaakov, but really it's the beginning for the Jewish people, Vayechi, and he lived. But my question to you simply is, what is it about our people that allows us to go through the worst of time, the ashes, and to rise up to create? Where would you say the essence of that comes from?
I think it's a sense of responsibility. In a way, it started with Avraham, who just came from a generation after Noah of destruction, of realizing that human nature in general is tend to crime and transgressions and being focused on material things. And Abraham was the person who had this sense of integrity and responsibility that every human being can change the world around him. And that's why he was chosen by Hashem. He was chosen because he took upon himself the responsibility which he instilled in generations to come, in Yitzchak and Yaakov, because all of them had difficult lives.
Yes.
No one of them enjoyed like tranquility and peace and good life. Every one of them had to fight. And people can fight as long as they know why I'm fighting for, why I'm risking my life. And this sense of purpose for the Jewish people, that we have responsibility, we have something to do in this world, we have to strive to, that tomorrow will be better than today, I think that the drive of the Jewish people, and eventually it will be the drive of the world, because that's our message to the entire world. Every person in this world can change the world to the better.
You know, I once heard a very beautiful, very short Torah about the sins of Adam and Eve. And while they weren't Jewish, they were human. And maybe it's a drive of humankind just to continue to grow and to push forward. And essentially it was, why did they sin in the Garden of Eden? Knowing that there was only one thing that they weren't supposed to do. And the answer I remember hearing was because they wanted actually to leave the Garden of Eden, because the Garden of Eden is something that comes at the end of your life, right? They wanted to scratch their knees and to bruise their elbows. They want to go out and create, to actualize their essence, right? And I thought that was very, very beautiful. And I think really at the core of humankind is that drive. Sometimes it's actualized, sometimes it's not. Through the Jewish people, it absolutely is. And here's an example, Rabbi, and I want to hear your response to this. This week, there was some incredible news about a company in Israel delivering to the IDF, the military, a laser, which is now part of the cadre of weapons that Israel will be using to knock out bombs coming in from enemy places. And it's not expensive per laser beam. They say something like $5, so it's very affordable, much more than the Iron Dome. And I sat back and I thought, a laser beam, 2025, the Jewish people now able to defend themselves more so. What a miracle that is. What was your thought when you read that?
It's indeed, the stream of innovation coming from Israel is not surprising anymore. Like you read it and you say, okay, I could, it's nice, it's amazing, but yeah, I would expect it from the engineers in Israel. I know that they have great mind and great vision. So the element of surprise still exists, but it's not like, wow, like, something that you did not expect at all. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that at the time that we now speak, there are engineers who try to think or maybe develop the next big thing. This is very Jewish, as you said, because Jews always think ahead of their time. And we saw over the last year, listen, some of the achievement that Israel achieved on all fronts is just unbelievable. And this is for a nation that suffers tremendously from anti-Semitism, from pushback, from a diplomacy that sometimes try to, just to eliminate the Israel existence. And nevertheless, the world see every day something new. It's not only on the military front, but if you open the news and you hear about agriculture or physics or medicine, Israel is there. Absolutely.
Yes. I'm mesmerized and overwhelmed by the innovation, as you say, within Israel. And when I have the opportunity to interview somebody as recently as Nir Amitai, and we talked about this, who started the Rimon Farms to help soldiers who are going through PTSD, as well as young people who are suffering. There's no lack of potential guests for my podcast, Rabbi, especially in Israel and the Jewish world, because what we're doing is magnificent. It's actually incredible, the development and the growth. So with that, I understand that the non-Jewish New Year doesn't mean much to you, but being that we do follow that calendar in 2025, what would you say is your greatest innovation? What did you accomplish, perhaps in the educational field, that you're very, very proud of?
I would say development of a curriculum, a piece that other educators saw and told me that they have to purchase it to their schools. And it's not about the purchasing, obviously, but what I try to achieve in this curriculum is to talk to a person who is not affiliated with the Tariag mitzvot, with the 613 mitzvot, and maybe the last time he went to shul or she went to shul was in their bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah, but still to instill a sense of pride in these students. And I think to a certain extent, I was quite successful. When I speak to parents, they say, oh, my daughter, my son, they love this course because we speak about it around the Shabbos table, if they have a Shabbos table, or we spoke about it when we drive to school. It's really interesting. It's, so if I'm proud of everything, especially this year, is developing this curriculum that I think is important to all Jews all over the world. I hope that I'll have the opportunity to expose more schools to this curriculum.
Kol hakavod. Can you just expand on it, maybe just a little bit about the curriculum? Tell us perhaps one of the nuances, machinations within it.
So I'll tell you, we started it because we realized in our educational leadership that some of the courses that we give are already 20, 25 years old. It was for a certain group of students, but we are in Generation Z with social media, with different interaction, different relationship, more anxiety, whatever it is, it's a very different, but especially in Jewish terms, many of our students don't experience real Shabbat. And I'm not talking about Orthodox, I'm talking about all denomination. They don't experience Shabbat the way people, even if they didn't grow in Orthodox families, experienced it 25 years ago. It's very different. It's one generation that gone. You always look at the Zayde and the great Zayde, and they are not exist anymore. That's a big issue. And at the same time, something changed around us, anti-Semitism, in a big way. After October 7th, the world is not the same as it used to be, or as we thought it is before October 7th. And you want to equip your students with knowledge, because knowledge is strength. Knowledge is a kind of weapon to defend yourself. And I suggested to focus on certain aspects of Judaism, which is not directly connected to keeping, as I say, the 613 mitzvot. But the idea of resilience, the idea of gratitude, the idea of justice, the idea of courage, there is a very Jewish element into them. And just for an example, I developed this week, the unit about justice. And we are not the first one to have system of laws and courts and order, social order. But what is interesting about the Jewish courts? The supreme Jewish court was in the Temple Mount. Mm-hmm. So people who came to the Temple Mount came for the worship of the sacrifice, to see the priests, but also many people came to deal with monetary issue, with neighbors issue. They came to the Sanhedrin, the Supreme Court, to the temple. Why? Because our justice system is not just to make sure that there is a social order. We represent God in this world. And the role of the court is to bring divine justice into the world. It's a very, very different way of seeing the world around us, not just to keep order and to make sure that a person who was hurt is going to be compensated. God is merciful. God is the truth, the ultimate truth. And since God does not appear in our world explicitly, the Jewish court represents the values of the Torah, the values of God, in making sure that the money that was taken unfairly is going to be returned. That people who did something awful to another person are going to be judged, so the values of the Torah are going to be kept. So we try to bring this kind of values and to show how profound is the Jewish thought about things that maybe exist in other places. Listen, everyone has to eat. Agreed. Everyone has to go to the washroom. Every human being. But when you say a bracha, when you leave the washroom, and thank God for the magnificent body we have, yes. When you take an apple and you say a bracha on it and you recognize that, wow, this is a miracle. Every apple, if you research it well, you are going to see that it is a miracle within a miracle within a miracle.
Right.
And you just live in a different way of thinking about the world around you. And that's what I want our students to know, that we have a special way of thinking about the world around us. So it's about societies, it's about steel material, it's about animals, it's about human beings, it's about nations. And I think that I managed to accomplish some of it.
Rabbi, I just want to add to that the two things. Number one is I am going to really push you this year to start writing your book. So be prepared. Number two is
maybe tell me what is the subject.
You just nailed the subject, Rabbi. Everything you talk about is within the context of your understanding of education, which is very unique and is very appropriate, and it's very beautiful what you have to say. You need to write. So 2026 is a year when I'm going to push you on it. Number two is I did a comparison on AI this week between the various different codes of ancient Middle East, such as the Code of Hammurabi, the Hittite Code, and other such codes, and I compared it to the Torah. And I did so through various different issues, such as an eye for an eye, lex talionis, how one takes care of the orphans and the orphans and the widows, and slaves, as an example. And you know something, Rabbi? And honestly, this is without bias. Almost 100% of the time, the code that came out most compassionately was the Torah. These other codes were affixed to the king, and many of the laws did not even apply to that level of society. Whereas our Torah tells us that the laws apply to everybody. It doesn't matter if he's a Kohen or if he's a Melech. The laws of God and within the Torah apply to everybody. And I did a TikTok video saying, if you want to enhance your appreciation of your Jewishness, do that comparison on AI. Compare it to ancient codes, the Torah, and you will find that we come out infinitely more compassionate than those other codes.
Very interesting.
Fascinating.
I would actually considering writing a book. You write a book about it. It sounds very, very interesting.
You're playing ping pong with me, are you? Rabbi, I want to dive into our new series. It's called Torah in Real Time. And we discussed the Parsha of the week, which people seem to enjoy. And we try to do it through some things that are happening, current events, as we call it. So here's my formal introduction. Parashat Vayechi opens quietly, but it carries the weight of endings and of hope carried forward. Jacob's life is drawing to a close. A family scarred by betrayal, exile, and fear gathers around a bedside. Words are spoken not only to bless, but to repair. What was fractured is named. What was lost is remembered. What must endure is entrusted to the next generation. Read against the backdrop of our own moment. Vayechi feels uncannily present. In early 2025, a fragile ceasefire in Gaza brought the first return of Israeli hostages, some alive, some not, after months of anguish. Families waited, nations held their breath, and the missing were finally brought home. Vayechi is likewise a parsha of return. Joseph reconciles with his brothers, and Jacob ensures his body will not remain in exile, but will be carried back to the ancestral land, Eretz Yisrael. The Torah reminds us that being brought home, whether in life or in death, matters deeply, spiritually, and morally, being brought home. The public mourning that accompanied the return of fallen hostages echoes another central movement of the Parsha, Kavod Hamet, honoring the dead. Jacob's burial is described in striking detail, attended not only by family, but by an entire society. Grief is not hidden, loss acknowledged publicly. Vayechi teaches that dignity in death is not a private concern, it is a collective responsibility. And beyond mourning lies tension. In Israel, families and citizens have taken to the streets, protesting, pleading, demanding accountability over hostage negotiations. These painful civic debates mirror the unresolved undercurrents in Jacob's final blessings. He does not offer sentimental closure. He speaks hard truths, names past violence and struggles one last time to shape unity from a divided family. Vayechi insists that reconciliation is not simple and that love does not erase conflict. It faces it honestly. Vayechi is the end of the book of Genesis, but not an ending without direction. It asks enduring questions. How do we bring the missing home? How do we honor the dead without abandoning the living? How do families and nations hold together after trauma? Jacob's final charge is not despair, but community. Even in exile, even after loss, even when the future feels uncertain, Vayechi, and he lived. So very, very, very general question, Rabbi. After I learn each parsha every week, I have a certain feeling that comes with it, some thoughts. What's your sense now that we're at the end of Genesis? We're at the end of Bereshit. Yaakov's 147. He blesses his sons, and then he passes away. What feeling, what thoughts came along with the story in Vayechi?
I would say it's mixed feelings of one acceleration. Like, Avram started the story of the Jewish people as one person with little chance to survive even the next generation. He had no children. In the age of 90 and 100, this was a complete miracle. then he had to sacrifice him and almost lost him. Yitzchak continued it in a miraculous way, but one of his sons is going off the derech completely. So what is the chance of these people to fulfill all the blessing that God gave Avram? I would say almost nothing. And when you stand at the end of Parashat Vayechi of a successful family, okay, the dynamics is one issue to talk about, and I think that we talked quite a while about it, but at the end of the day, you can start see the bracha that Hashem gave Avram start to be fulfilled at the end of the Bereshit. We are having tribes, we have a growing family, successful family within Eretz Goshen, led by Yosef. But at the same time, it's a sense of what is going to happen, what the future is going to bring. They are in a foreign land. As we know, winds are changing all the time when you are not at home and when you are not safe in your own land. And the parashah ends with the death of Yaakov to say, okay, this was an end of an era. End of an era can be an opportunity for doing better next, and it can be an end of an era that will never return itself. And I think that's the mood I have when I end Bereshit. On one hand, wow, look what happened from the time of Avram until now. But at the same time, a sense of anticipation that brings some concerns.
It's very interesting when you do a deep dive into the Torah, its format, and obviously its content. One of the things that you'll arrive at is that there's a concept within the Torah as to how it's laid out, that there's a division. I think it's 9 letters, if I'm correct,
right,
between each parsha. But this parsha and the previous parsha, there's a situation which is called stuma, which means it's closed. There is no separation. What's that all about, Rabbi?
So Chachamim say that it comes to show that it was a time of spiritual darkness. The Jewish people entered an era where, as I say, they don't know what is about to happen. This is not like predictable anymore. The journey from now on can take all kinds of turns. And from the moment Yaakov arrived to Mitzrayim until the end of Sefer Bereshit, it's all one story that does not take even like a moment to breathe, to reflect, because it's one story about a family that arrived to Galus, to a place which does not belong to them, no matter how much they will be successful, with a future that is in dark. You don't know what is going to happen. And the Torah, does not have many tools to draw your attention. No question mark, no punctuation, no emojis, to tell you if to be sad or happy or surprised. And this is one of the ways the Torah draw our attention, because we expect like some gap between one story to another. No, this is one long story to tell you that no matter what happened through this story, it's one story of a family going to a place that does not belong to them, and you don't know what is going to be the next chapter in their life.
The Torah tells us that Yaakov died. He was 147 years old. And everything is important in the Torah, each and every word, each and every number. The Chachamim talk about the last 17 years of his life, which he had some menucha. My father used to say, God bless his soul, I can have some menucha, it's Shabbos, right? And also the first 6 years of his life when he was a little boy, it was carefree, which I thought was very, very beautiful. One of the Pshatim talk about that. He was a man of great strength. great struggle, a very, very interesting personality and character. He passes away in the Parsha. Yosef passes away as well. How are we to think about this man, Yaakov, one of the Avot, probably more parshiot on Yaakov than perhaps any of the other Avot? What are we supposed to take away from this man, Rabbi?
Many lessons, no question about it. But as I say, that the one who actually established the nation with 12 children, we sometimes forget that Ephraim and Menashe, by the way, are also considered each one a shevet under the umbrella of Yosef, so it may be 13 shvatim, tribes. We learn the following. Number one, that your life are not going to be easy. If you belong to the Jewish people, you are going to run from one place to another to take all kinds of responsibilities and commitment, but it's not going to guarantee you easy life, exactly like Yaakov Avinu. It also tells you that you always have to be careful about the dynamic in your own family. It's not only Esav, the external troubles. The Jewish family is built on strength within the Jewish family, and you always have to think about your own children, your own family, your own wives, then your own wife, one today. And you mentioned that at the end of his life, Yaakov enjoyed some rest, some peaceful years. But if you think about it, Yaakov did not leave any legacy on these years. We don't know what he did. I'm sure that he spent lots of time with his children, teaching them, the ways of Avram, Yitzchak, what is required from them. But the impact of Yaakov was in the bad years, not in his good years. The only thing we hear about Yaakov in the good years is the brachot that he gives his children and his grandchildren. Mm-hmm. But we don't learn a lot from the last 17 years of his life about things that he did. The light is shift to the Shvatim, to Yosef, to Egypt. And I think this is also an important lesson. Sometimes we think that our the better part of our life is when we are resting in peace, but the meaningful years are the years where we are challenged and have difficulties.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of studies that talk about the best years of a person's life comes after 60 years old, but I think that's in reference to menucha, to resting. Yeah. Rabbi, we know that in this parsha, one of the major pieces is the blessings that Jacob gave to his sons. Reuven, firstborn in strength and promise, but unstable, rushing like water. You carried power, yet lost it by crossing a boundary that could not be crossed. Shimon and Levi, brothers bound by fury. Their anger was fierce, their weapons cruel. Not exile from the people, but dispersion among them. So their violence could never again gather force. When you prepare for Divrei Torah, Rabbi, and people ask you about the brachot that Yaakov gave his sons, is there one in particular that stands out to you?
There is one that I really like. I don't know who did I hear it from, and it's actually about the bracha of Levi and Shimon, which is very, very interesting, because actually they were cursed, right? It was not a blessing. Achalkem beYaakov, afitzem beYisrael. I'm going to spread them out. As Rashi explained, I don't want them to be together because they just cause troubles when they are together. However, we do know that the tribe of Levi became essential to the existence of the Jewish people. The Kohanim, the Levim, all the work in Beit HaMikdash was done by the Kohanim. So the cursed tribe became the most important one, the one who actually bear the torch of continuity. Well, what happened here? So he explained it in the following way. Yaakov was very, very upset with the zealousness of Levi that he thought was unleashed in not so thoughtful way, and he was very upset with it because the Jewish people have to be very, very careful in their behaviors, considering that they are a small group of people, even today, and for sure in their time. But at the same time, he recognized something very, very important. They care. Levi really cares about the holiness of the family. He was really offended by what happened to his sister. He cared about his sister and about their reputation and their spiritual situation. And Yaakov, we seeing the problem, he also saw the motivation, which was good. So Yaakov said, how can I take this ability to care, to be zealous, which sometimes you need in order to continue to survive and to exist? He made them melamdei tinokot, he made them teachers. The Kohanim, we think about them like in the temple, but the truth is that in the land of Israel, there were 48 cities where the people of Levi, who never inherited any particular piece of land, they were spread among all the other Shvatim, and they were the teachers. They were the people who were responsible to light and to maintain the Jewish flame everywhere.
Lovely.
Yeah. And this came, and this is the beauty of the brachot, to see the negative, but in the negative, to see something very positive that, if well channeled, can bring a great benefit to the Jewish people. So to me, especially the teacher, the Kohen, this Dvar Torah really bears lots of meaning. And I think as a person, it also teaches me something very significant. And I think we mentioned it 2 weeks ago. The ability to see within the negative and the bad sides of the appearance of certain things. You have to see sometimes what is inside, what really motivates the people. And even if sometimes they don't know how to express it well, and it doesn't come through very well, but look into their motivation. In a certain situation, it might channel to bring a great blessing to the Jewish people and to the entire world.
That's a beautiful thought. Beautiful. When you were talking about, I was thinking about Asaph. Kibbutz Avim was a big deal with him, right? So when you look at his essence, he was red, he was ruddy, he was the hunter. Yet he took that passion, for the outdoors, if you will, and he turned it inwardly as well to respect his father. Is there something there, do you think?
Absolutely. And the interesting thing, in the Masechet of Kiddushin, we have like examples to Kibbutz Avim. What does it mean to be like honoring your parents? And there are some stories about Rabbi Tarfon, who was put himself under the bed of his mom, so she came from the bed to the floor. And amazing stories like this, how like the greatest of great scholars of Torah were making sure to honor their parents. But the highlight of the story is about a person who was not Jewish. He was Dama Benetina. He was an officer, a Roman officer who lived in Ashkelon. And for some reason, he had like this beautiful gem that the Kohanim needed for the Kohen Gadol. And they went to him and they wanted to buy the gem in a lot of money. He could be very rich if he would trade the gem he had for the money he was offered. And he said, I can't do it. And the reason was his father was sleeping next to the treasure of where the gem was, and he did not want to wake him up. Now, the story is beautiful. I think many of us as fathers, we will be very upset if our children will not wake us up
Yes.
for making such a huge deal, but this is a different story. But it was recorded in the Talmud, and everything recorded in the Talmud is going to be taught and learned in 3,000 years down the road too. And I think that our scholars choose this story to teach us that sometimes even a goy, a non-Jew, can teach us a very valuable lesson about kibud avayim. And if you remember that by our sages, Rome was the continuation of Esav, I think that there is a bigger statement here, that we should actually learn kibud avayim from Esav.
Beautiful. Rabbi, when I learned the Parsha, in particular, because our series is now called Torah in Real Time, its application to today stands out to me. And when I learned this Parsha, I thought about you and your father. The Torah says, then Joseph fell upon his father's face after he died. He clutched him. He embraced him. He wept over him and he kissed him. Very, very beautiful imagery. Joseph ordered his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. So the physicians embalmed Israel. They call him Israel here. It's important to make that distinction. His 40-day term was completed, for such is the term of embalm, and Egypt bewailed him for 70 days. And then the Torah goes on to talk about taking his bones to Israel, to Canaan. But really it's talking in many ways about kavod hamet, honor that we have for those who have passed away. And I thought about you burying your father this past year. In Israel, I remember when we buried my mother, God bless her soul, it was getting dark outside. We buried her in Beit Shemesh. There's a cemetery, a Rabbinical Council of America cemetery. And I just remember the sensitivity that those who worked within this environment had for my mother's body. And I thought about that as well when I learned about how Yosef treated his father. Kavod hamet. What are your thoughts on that?
It's very interesting that you mentioned it. I want to tell you a little anecdote. I was also very, very impressed with the people who had to do it, young people, by the way, and the care they took upon us, a family, when you have to see the body and the way they dress and prepare the body for the burial. Were very, very kind and did it with great sensitivity. Now, my father was a very generous person. He was not rich, but he was very generous. You know the difference. You have rich people who are not generous, and you have like people who so they did okay, but they are generous. I knew that my father would like to reward them. They do it for salary from Misad Adatot, but my father, there is no way that he would not tip the people who took care over him in the last endeavor of his life. So I gave them something. On the Shiva, we spoke like the brothers and the sisters, and we found out that actually each one of us tipped them like secretly.
Really?
For what they did, because each one of us knew exactly what our father wanted us to do. So at the end of the day, okay, we don't regret any good thing that we do, but they did not tell us that they already got like above above the grid. But we were very happy about it because we knew that we fulfilled the wishes of my father, even at the very, very last moment that he was with us. So I agree with you. It's called Chevra Kadisha. This institution of the burial society is very, very long. Maybe from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, when they had to deal, remember, in the desert with many, many people that died. The entire generation died, and they had to treat them with respect. according to our sages, when Moshe Rabbeinu died, who was his Chevra Kadisha? Hashem himself.
Yes.
Which tells you something again about how divinely are things that we human beings are doing in this world. They are actually come from divine roots of Gmilut Chasadim, of mercy, of being Rachum Bechanun. And yes, when I read this parsha, it brings me many memories of Inei Avicha Chole, how people understand that, like, the days, the weeks are numbered, and how you prepare yourself for the last moment. How my father prepared himself to his last moment. Certainly, this parsha resonate differently than previous years.
Rabbi, I think it's appropriate that we mention that there is still one deceased hostage in Gaza. Master Sergeant Ron Gvili,
Yeah.
a 24-year-old Israeli police officer who died fighting Hamas on October 7th. He's the last slain hostage whose body has not been returned as of December 2025. I am taken as a Jew as to how we fight to get back our bodies. And while there's probably, I'm sure there are distinctions between fighting to get back living hostages and those who are dead. I'm sure there are. But it's as if that they're still alive. And the preparations that are made upon their return to bury them with such kavod, with such honor, is truly a fine reflection of our peoplehood, is it not?
100%. 100%. And as a soldier, I saw the people of the Rabbanut Atzva'it taking care over the deceased soldiers and how they treat them. Avrum, this is the hardest of all jobs in the army. And they do it with such love and care that brings dignity to the entire human being and to the IDF and to the soldiers. To see how they treat a deceased person, you can understand how a Jew should treat another person when he's alive.
Rabbi, I'm very much of a man of nuances. I enjoy the words that kind of jump out in the Torah that have little explanation, don't seem to make a lot of sense when they're mentioned, and perhaps mentioned a few times. We talked about when Yosef went to look for his brothers, and there was an ish along the road. In the shir that I give on Thursday night on the Parsha, I asked my Talmidim to develop through their own imagery, who is this ish standing along the road? And what are we supposed to take away from the word ish within that Parsha? Rabbi, when I learned this Parsha, I want you to know, and I'm sure you do know this, that the reference to Yaakov in bed happened three times. In 48:2, so Israel exerted himself and sat up in bed. 48:31, he replied, "Swear to me," and he swore to him, Yosef. Then Israel prostrated himself toward the head of the bed. 49:33, when Jacob finished instructing his sons, he drew his feet onto the bed. He expired and was gathered to his people. In the Torah, the bed carries deep spiritual symbolism. It is not a passive object, but a sacred threshold, a place where inner truth surfaces and destiny is shaped, and other such thoughts about the bed. Do you have any thoughts on the word bed three times in this parsha?
That's very interesting thought. But a bed, if you think about this piece of furniture, is a very interesting piece of furniture because life starts on it and ends on it.
Excellent. Yes.
And maybe again, this is like if you think about the parsha of Vayechi, and we spoke about it in Chayei Sarah too, it's a parsha of death that starts with Chaim, with life, Vayechi Yaakov. And maybe the bed is a place that tells us everything about the cycle of life, where life starts and where life are going to end. And everything that is happening in between is up to you, how you are going to conduct your own life.
Yeah, so a little bit more about the bed in light of what you're saying, a place of transmission, not action. Major Torah
But
movement.
if you think about it, like
Yeah.
mitah in Hebrew, the shoresh of mem tet hey is like directing yourself to one side or another. Because I said, unote layamin, he's like leaning to the right, or note lasmol, he's leaning to the left. And maybe there is something about, as I say, the cycle of life that starts on bed and end on bed, is that you have the ability to turn yourself to one side or another. And it's your decision that make this hataya.
Yeah, and when I think about bed in the Torah, or more so in the Gemara, I think when we build a sukkah, the real chiyuv, the real obligation, it's to sleep in the sukkah, right? It's to make a bed in this temporary home of yours, right?
Very interesting.
Rabbi, I have a poem on Vayechi, and I know that you grew within AI in 2025, right? Am I correct?
I think everyone in the world grew in his AI experience. No question about this one.
Yeah.
And the question, of like how to use it. Can I tell you like a funny story? Yesterday happened to me.
Please. That's why we're here.
My son brought us from Israel like a liqueur that is very, very good. But it's like manufactured in Ireland. I'm not going to say the names because I want you to hear the following story. So he said that there is a hechsher from the Beit Din of London and we can drink it with no problem. But I decided, let's see what the AI is going to say about it. And I asked him exactly about this product, and his answer was, no, you cannot use it. They use vodka and they store it in barrel with wine. You cannot use any of it, of the products. Not this and not that and not that and not that. Okay, fine, listen. And in a very confident voice. Then we went to the site of Star K, and they explained that certain things you cannot use, certain things you can use, but it's like from the site of the Star K, which is a very respected rabbinate in America. So I came to the conclusion that apparently even in AI you have this machmirim, the ChatGPT, the big machmir, and it does not trust the hechsher of the Star K in America. So we have to be careful with this, before, first of all, we ask halachic question, and number two, it's like going to a rabbi, that some rabbis will try any way to find some heter to it, and some rabbis that already, Chabal al Azman, they will say no, no matter what it is. Like you come to them and they say no. Now, what's the question?
That reminds me of when your father was ill. God bless his soul. You told me that you phoned a rabbi in Israel, right? And he started asking questions and looking at the machmir approach, which is very strict approach, and it kind of went over your head. You thought, no, this is not good. I'm going to figure this out on my own. Rabbi, the poem goes as follows: Vayechi, and he lived. It begins without thunder, no burning bush, no sea split open, just a bed, a body tired from history, a family leaning in close, breathing the same air at the edge of goodbye. Jacob lives, the Torah insists, even as his eyes dim, because living here is not pulse or breath, but what is spoken when time is short and truth can no longer wait. Old wounds sit at the bedside, betrayal, silence, years of exile. Names are called, blessings are shaped like repairs. Not everything is softened, not everything is forgiven, but nothing is denied. Outside the text, our own moments wait, families counting days, watching doors, holding photographs worn thin by hope. Some return breathing, some return wrapped in flags and tears. All are brought home. Vayechi knows this ache. Joseph steps out from behind power. Brothers meet what they once fled. A father asks not to be left in Egypt, refusing comfort without belonging, insisting that home still matters, even after everything. Grief, too, is public here. An entire nation pauses. Tears are not rushed away. The dead are carried with dignity because honoring them is how the living stay human. And still the streets are restless. Voices rise. Questions burn without easy answers. Justice argues with urgency. Love argues with fear. Like Jacob's final words, nothing resolves neatly. This is how Genesis ends, not with certainty, but with direction, not with peace, but with responsibility. How do we carry our dead? How do we fight for the living? How do we stay our one family after everything that tried to tear us apart? Jacob blesses and then entrusts the future forward, even in exile, even after loss, even when the way is unclear. Vayechi, and he lived. The book closes, but life does not. Rabbi Admeva Esrin, you should be healthy. Do you think about the end of your days?
Yes, absolutely. I think in the modern world we see death as like the ultimate failure. Eventually, you will die, and in a world that talking about achievements and pushing ahead, like this sounds exactly like the opposite of everything, right? And but especially after this year, you start to think, okay, like everyone will end his life, and you think about two things: how do you want it to be, although we cannot plan it, and what is the legacy you will leave beyond you, behind you. These are major questions that obviously I ask myself every single day.
From your experience, are most people mabsut, satisfied at the end of their days?
It's very hard to say, but I will tell you one sad observation I had with my father. My father was in the hospital for a few weeks. I don't think that there was one moment that there was no family member around his bed. So if he woke up in the middle of the night, he could call us and to ask for something, and to feel that he's not like al tashlichenu le'zikna, like he's not like thrown away by the family. But he was in, I would say, 40 people around him in different rooms in the ward, and many of them did not have a visit once a week from anybody.
Yes.
So I guess that it depends a lot on the level of support that you get from friends and people around you. So this make a huge difference. How you depart from the world, loved, recognized, validated, or just, I'm sorry to say, but like unimportant to anybody. It's very, very sad.
My brother-in-law, Mayor, he is part of a group of guys here in Toronto who go to funerals where they wouldn't otherwise have a minyan.
Wow, what a mitzvah.
I've attended a couple, and one of the funerals that I attended was of a man who literally had nobody else there except for these guys.
Wow.
What kind of hesped do you make for such a person? What do you say about, because how you die in many ways is how you live. Your father, God should watch over his soul. He had 40 people around him, and he did because he gave of himself during his life. This man who had nobody there, what was his life all about? We have to really reach out to people. We have to be part of community, which in a big way is what Vayechi is all about. It's the Jewish community, right? and it continues.
This is a very, very important part of our discussion. I have to tell you that I had an awful experience this week. One of our neighbors, I used to give them something small, for the holidays, for the New Year, whatever it is. And when I came, she told me that her son passed away just a day before. I did not know anything. And I was the only person at home. I was the only person, and I thought, God forbid it happened in the Jewish community, like it's going to be like with dozens of people coming to support, to bring food, to ask what they can do. It struck me to no end. Avrum, like sometimes you have to stop and to say, how who is like the Jewish people? And you need these kind of moments to realize a striking difference between what does it mean to be in a Jewish community and not to be in a Jewish community.
Agreed. And within that, Rabbi, I want to take this moment. We're going to end on a positive. It was my great nephew's David's bar mitzvah this week. My sister Chavi, her son Meir's son, David, named after Chavi's husband. God bless his soul. And it was at the Kotel. From what I heard from my sister Chavi and from Meir, her son, that it was absolutely magnificent to have a bar mitzvah at the Kotel. Apparently, is very, very special. Have you attended a bar mitzvah at the Kotel?
I can't remember if my bar mitzvah, like Aliyah Torah, I think it was also in the Kotel. I still remember it. Remember, this was like 4 or 5 years after the 6-day war. But I always love to come to the Kotel, and every Monday and Thursday you are going to have bar mitzvahs in the Kotel, and it's a very lovely sight how it draws people. And on one hand you hear Ashkenazim, and the other one Sfardim, and the other one Timanim, and sometimes in one morning, in 1 hour, on Monday or Thursday morning, you are going to hear 6-7 different nosachim of Kriya B'Torah of the bar mitzvah. And it's nice to see the diversity of the Jewish people, and it's even nicer to know that the next generation is still learning from the Torah.
Yes, exactly. And that's what Parashat Vayechi is all about. I want to wish Mazal Tov to my family, particularly my sister Chavi, on the bar mitzvah, and kol hakavod to her for raising such a beautiful, beautiful Jewish family. I also want to wish Mazal Tov to all Jews in the world who had a bar mitzvah this week, celebrating in the diaspora, celebrating in Israel. It's the end of 2025, and some people celebrate it as New Year, some people don't. But I just have to tell you, it is indeed a moment of introspection for me, as Marcy said in that piece that I read. And I am, even though we had such a tough year, and God willing, 2026 should be much better for us. I have to tell you something. I'm prouder than ever to be a Jew, Rabbi. Prouder than ever. I've experienced such dialogue with Jews in the diaspora in Israel about their accomplishments in the most difficult of times. The songs that they sing, the dances that they dance, the inventiveness of our people, to me, has made me more and more proud. And then what I mentioned before, too, about my Torah learning, we have a gift in our hands, which is called Torah. And I think you and I share this. We've talked about this many times, how we wish that Jews would understand the beauty of the Torah and what we have. Absolutely. Right? That's a big piece that you talk about, right? So we hope in 2026 that this gift is unwrapped for more people, and people learn Torah and they talk about Torah, because it really is something special. But until then, we wish everybody health and happiness. The Jewish people should be safe. We should have menucha, like Yaakov's end of his years. We should. Any closing words, Rabbi?
Listen, such inspiring words. I don't want to ruin it. Beautiful said and wonderful message.
Thank you so much. So until we meet again, as my mother used to say, sei gesund, go in good health, and we will see you, God willing, again next week. Thank you, Rabbi.
Amen.